Hello, and welcome to the Go Gather World podcast with me, your host, Matthew Gavin. On this show, I chat to experts from all areas of foraging and wild food to bring you their favourite plants, recipes, tools and techniques, and there's even some great conversations about life thrown in as well. So thank you for listening. Now here we go. So on the podcast today, I'm really excited to be talking with one of Ireland's most interesting chefs, formerly of Noma, 4-time best restaurant in the world, and former head chef of Bastable, an Irish restaurant that was gaining great notoriety before COVID. Cúán Greene is redefining what it means to experience food in Ireland, whether it's through the finest pop-up food experiences like a cosmic taco box, or his unique passion for celebrating Irish local food and heritage crafts with his newly founded Ómós. For the last 2 years running, Cúán has been named in the Irish Times 50 People to Watch and has even had the renowned food critic Jay Rayner write in The Guardian that it's worth coming to Dublin just for his food alone. Welcome to the Go Gather Wild podcast, Cúán Greene. Cúán, great to have you on.
Thank you very much. That's quite the intro. I really appreciate it. No, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely delighted to have you on. And it's always awkward kind of hearing those things, I suppose, when people are saying them about you. But yeah, it's all true. What can I say? Even the cosmic tacos, which we can get into,
Making things, and especially when people say, on the list twice in a row, it's kind of like, that's because I didn't do anything last year,
You've done a lot. I know you've done a lot. I think everyone's this COVID time has been really strange. But I thought we'd start off actually by just talking about. We met first to give people a background. We met first very briefly. My brother Aaron lives in Copenhagen now, and was living in Copenhagen, but he works in a restaurant called Bar, which is a sister restaurant to Noma. And when he came back to Dublin for a visit, he was saying how we have to go to Bastable. It's the place. We need to go there, and what you were doing there is what was the food we had to taste. So we went there and we had an amazing dinner, and I've been back since. Before it all got shut down, I went back again. But you were really kind to us when we introduced and chatted, and even like everything from the jars and what you have on display. And it's very much that open style. The chefs are in the dining room, and what you do with food is incredible, and the way you treat it and the respect you give it. So it's an amazing experience. And I remember getting 1 or 2 additional courses thrown in the mix, which the one I will absolutely never forget is your chocolate dessert that you had there that almost wasn't sweet. It was totally different, and each bite it got better, and I was terribly disappointed to finish it. But ever since then we've kind of stayed in touch, and from passing slow cookers to pickled things or other stuff, we've kept in touch, and it's progressed to this now. So really excited to have you here and talking today.
Yeah, thank you. It's it's a pleasure, and it's nice to be reminded of those times. Working in Bastable, it was a fantastic year for me, and it almost feels like it was a much longer period than a year, because I think so much went on and during that journey, and it was a real journey. For me, having just come back to Ireland, so it was kind of like straight into the deep end, and a road of discovery, to try, do the best I possibly could. And I guess I didn't envisage that I'd only be there for that short time. I kind of thought that it was going to be something a bit longer than that, but with COVID, it just happened that way, that I felt, it was time just to step away and do my own thing, and that's kind of how Ómós basically has come about, which, yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. I can't do so much. I won't reveal too much too soon about that, and we'll totally get into it. I'd love to start off basically just telling people about kind of how you got into food, where it all started, from whether you were cooking at the kitchen table, or how did it all progress into what it is now?
Yeah, it happened at a very young age. I mean, I had a friend talk to me the other day, or got in touch with me the other day, and said that he remembers being in my house as a 6-year-old, and was kind of remembers being baffled back then that I was that I was cooking. I don't have any memory of it really, but there's photos of me cooking, making biscuits on the counter on my own. So my mom was hiding, um, taking a photo of me because it was 7 o'clock in the morning and I had snuck downstairs to make biscuits. So I guess it's something that's always been a part of me. And moving to France, I ended up moving to France with my family for 4 years. We lived there in a tiny rural winemaking village in the Languedoc. My dad works in wine, so it was something he really wanted to do, and that's where it kind of everything just evolved when it comes to food. We were just immersed in this culinary lifestyle, pretty much. The French, quintessentially, it's almost a bit of a cliche, but they really do live and breathe through cooking. And that's just, I fell in love with it. And yeah, I was thrown into a restaurant at the age of 14, and I haven't worked in any other type of job since. So yeah, it's been my life essentially.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's a very self-sufficient kid. I'd say it was a bit of a nightmare for your mother keeping the sweets away when you can just make them yourself, you know?
Yeah. Well, I've always had a bit of a sweet tooth, so she definitely had a big a big problem trying to keep them away from me.
Yeah, and was it in college? You went to DIT, I think, did you, or you just kind of always cooked in general, or were you of the thought, I think there's some chefs out there that, say you don't need college, you should keep in the kitchen, but then some are, no, you definitely need, a proper training, and then it's a mixture of both.
Hmm. Yeah, I did go to DIT. I went to Colbrew Street. I think education is important, and it was something I wanted to do. I didn't necessarily want to just go into a restaurant because, I've always wanted to be a business owner. I've never just wanted to cook, and while lots of chefs, are happy simply, being a head chef of a restaurant rather than an owner, I've always aspired to that. And I can't quite punctuate why, but it's something that has always been of interest.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and those things give you a great base. I remember I done a kind of a general business degree, and when accounting came up, a P&L was just a puzzle to me. I didn't know they existed, looking at
Yeah.
these budgets and things, and it really opens your eyes in terms of everything you need to know, like from the food you're cooking with to, margins and suppliers and costs and things. So it's a really great.
Definitely, exactly. And I was absolutely terrible at it, but it was stuff I needed to kind of knuckle down on. And I'm glad I have, because I've definitely taken a lot from it. And education, it gives you that breathing space to learn as a young student. And a lot of cooks are thrown into the deep end with, in these harsh environments. And I've seen some, very negative things come through that. I think being able to slowly develop amongst your peers, and having that space to also be, a teenager is really important. So yeah, I would recommend to anyone to stay in school for as long as possible, and learn that way, because you'll learn the cooking quickly. That comes quite quickly if you're passionate enough in it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can always explore in your own time and get the good fundamentals. And
Mhm.
that led you where? So did you go straight to Noma after college, or what was that gap, or what was that step to go there?
Yeah, I was cooking throughout school. I was in and out of restaurants in Dublin, and I did a gap year. Actually, I took a gap year in college, and I moved to Spain, and I was working in a phenomenal restaurant there, because I really wanted to learn Spanish. Um, I had the option of going to Noma back then as well, but it was the Spanish that kind of that was the deciding factor there. I know this restaurant was incredible. It was a 3 Michelin star, and I don't regret it at all. It was a really phenomenal experience with beautiful people. Really great, tough working conditions, but lovely people at the heart of it, which is extremely important.
What restaurant was that?
That
Would
was
you?
called Kika da Costa in Valencia. Um, And yeah, I essentially learned Spanish there. I learned their ways. I, learned a new culture, and the avant-garde cuisine was the style of food that was being cooked there at the time. And that was quite hot during that period, and it was great. It was really, I really did learn a lot, but something didn't quite resonate with me with that style of cooking. It was produce based. I didn't really understand why we were using, average ingredients and doing phenomenal things with them. They always tasted amazing, but we were in the heart of Valencia with produce that, tomatoes that didn't taste delicious.
Right, yeah.
That didn't make sense to me. So um, when I went back to college, and then the following year I moved to Copenhagen. Couldn't get into Noma straight away because my CV wasn't strong enough. So I applied for a number of jobs, and I did a trial in a restaurant called Geranium. It was a 2 Michelin star at the time, and then luckily, just out of pure coincidence, the year I arrived, we got 3 stars. So that was just phenomenal to be a part of that. I was only there for about a month. No, I think it was 2 months in, and then we got 3 stars. So I a part of that? But it was a great year. We had all these amazing chefs come in the door, and then following that, I always had my eye on Noma. It was just that restaurant that just breathed. It was breathing soul.
Yeah.
So I had a few contacts in there, and I just did a trial, and I got in there. But I tell you, at that time, I'd probably been cooking for 8 years or so, and I would have thought that I was reasonably, quite a good cook. I just worked in 2-3 stars. I'd kind of gone through the French style, more classic style in Dublin, and learned, the basics and things like that, which was really important. But after my second day of trial in Noma, I was kind of looking around and just thinking, Jesus Christ, I have a lot to learn.
Wow.
These guys they're the gladiators of and it's when Geranium was more of an orchestra, it was like a 3-star Michelin orchestra.
Yeah.
Noma is the heavy metal, it's Metallica of cooking, and it's all go, and it has this fluency and a soulfulness in the cooking style, and there's a real connectivity to what we're doing and the ingredients. And for the time that we were there, there was just a feeling of time and place amongst the team, that we were in exactly where we should be, and
just doing something incredible.
Yeah, that was quite special.
And was there any, I always find it amazing with like restaurants of such, the great ones like Noma, Geranium, or whatever else. They're known because they are themselves. Like you can definitely put an identity to them, and that's what gets them to where they are, and everything. But I find you're in someone's vision, and that's the beauty of it. You're in someone's vision. And was there any or a number of these great, mentors, or chefs, or people you worked with, that you remember now, or did they teach you certain things that you took away being like, wow, or even that one sentence that someone said, because I found that throughout my life, that you meet these people, and they might say one or two things, or they might do something in the time you're with them that you carry with you. That's like, wow, that's made a difference to me. Are there any of those throughout your, period or life coming up to now?
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, my life has been full of role models, and that, starting with my grandmother, who was a cook, who also went to Carl Brewer Street as well. She was in the same course as me. To my parents, who are artists. My mom is a glass blower, and my dad's a graphic designer. So they've had a tremendous impact on my life, and how I see things, and how creativity really, basically navigates everything I do, and I've fallen in love with hospitality, but art plays such a massive part of it. And while I don't say cooking is, or what I do is an art, there's a serious art form towards it, and it's that I kind of gravitate towards. So my parents are yeah, a huge influence to me, and I work with them all the time. You know, it's not like, it's really that they just help me along the whole way, and that kind of carries on with the people I've worked with as well. You know, the cooks, I've worked with some really really bad cooks and like terrible people, but likewise, I worked with some incredible individuals, amazing role models, the most gifted and far more gifted cooks than me. Um, and yeah, I can, you know, there's almost too many to name, but going into Noma, I'd studied that restaurant so much, you know, while when I should have been, you know, doing coursework in college, I was reading the Noma book,
Yeah.
and having all those names and reading those names, and then standing in the restaurant and you're sharing a kitchen with them, you know, the Thomas Freewells, the Rene Redzepis, you know, it's just, it was so inspiring. And I still talk about them all the time. You know, it's they're extremely gifted people who, you know, it's really rubbed off on me in some way. You know, it's I try and carry what I learned from them every day, you know.
Yeah. Are there any like standout examples, say with in Noma, that something happened, or a dish wasn't right, and some Renee changed something, or
Yeah, well, what I loved about Noma was that no matter what, the customer was always going to get the best.
yeah,
You know, so if that we had a number of strategies there that um, that would enforce that. So per se, an ingredient didn't arrive. You know, we were waiting on scallops that were hand dyed by a Scottish man called Roddy. Um, and they didn't arrive because a swarm of pigeons attacked them when it got off the airplane. You know, got through the styrofoam boxes and ate into the scallops, so we couldn't serve the scallops. And this is a true story. We had a backup dish of king crab, which was in the fish tanks. So we had a fish tank with 60 king crabs available at all times, and a lot of that dish was mainly because it was so expensive. King crab is extremely expensive. Um, that was only for kind of VIP guests and things like that. But you know, it meant we could put that dish on the menu straight away. So we were never compromising there. We were never serving something that was below par. We were only giving them something better, you know, and that was pretty cool. And another element was like Noma was extremely tough place to work. It was never easy, and anytime we were kind of getting used to the menu, you know, Rene would change it again straight away. You know, he would bring something in, you know, a dish that was deemed impossible would come in to replace something that was, you know, just lacking that little bit. So it meant we were always on our toes, and his belief was that it made us sharper, and then, you know, it inspired more,
yeah,
and it gave people that pep. So yeah, there's a lot of learning there, and it's, you can agree or disagree with that, but that was in keeping with that energy that Noma is so you know, renowned for.
yeah. Was there any dish, one single dish, that you thought this will never, there's no way this is possible in the time frame to serve this up, or there's absolutely no chance of doing this?
Yeah, I was assigned most of those dishes, unfortunately. I seem to get the bad end of it.
Which is probably a good thing if they've that level of trust in you, in fairness. So
No, it was some of the dishes I was given were just a nightmare. It seemed. No, but I think everyone feels that way as well. You know, you're
yeah,
handling a dish, but yeah, like I had this dish of pickles, which I had to steam vegetables in vacuum bags and slice them and cook them all to perfection in the bag. And the only way of knowing that that they were cooked inside was by slicing open the vacuum bag, and you know, then you had to re-vacuum them if they were undercooked, and if they were overcooked, you're done for, basically. So you had to time that to precision, and then you had to punch out those carrots and vegetables, you know, kohlrabi or whatever it was, um, with tiny little like stencil cutters like the size of your fingernail, and there was about 1 million of them on every plate, and then you had to dress them like a flower in advance. um and combine them with an impossible sauce of about 1 million ingredients. And you're just like, are you having a laugh here? Anyway, the dish was actually taken off about a month, 2 months in, when I realized, the whole team were having to come together and come in for like about 3 hours in advance, and we were working something like 17 hours a day or something. But yeah, there's a few of them. Like duck season was never fun. Duck season was game season. We were plucking 65 ducks a day, and
Jesus.
Plucking a duck to plucking a chicken is different. It's harder, and it's grueling on your hands, and there's an unbelievable amount of feathers around. They had a room solely for plucking of ducks.
Which has more feathers, a duck or a chicken, do you think?
I haven't a clue, but I know it's hard. Yeah. No, it was just kind of Noma just constantly made the impossible possible, and
yeah.
with a look, like, it has a huge luxury, a huge budget, and it's not your everyday restaurant. But if you're going to learn somewhere, it was a remarkable place to learn and to become a very skilled cook quite quickly, or at least attempt at doing so. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, it sounds like it was definitely a huge forge, where that, like, the pressure cooker that really forms people, and a lot of people need that, and
a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Roller coaster. Yeah.
And that, like, I'd say it sounds like you've always been kind of forming your vision, and you've always had the anchoring to do something yourself. I know when you want to I know the feeling of wanting to do your own thing in your own style. And like, did you see Bastable as your chance to do that, or what? How did that come about?
Yeah, I think growing up, even from 15, as I said, I've kind of always wanted to be an owner, a business owner of some sort. And I've kind of created this pathway that somewhat seems like the perfect pathway, and that's kind of what I was trying to do in a way.
Right.
I believed by working with all these amazing people and so on and so forth was going to be good for my career. But to be honest with you, now, as I'm older, I'm kind of less sensitive about that. And I think about that less, and I think about what's good for me less. It's not so important. That's just something that's happened now. For me, I have different incentives, and it's far more community orientated and less about the ego. It's more about doing what's right and what I feel what's right about food with food.
Yeah.
So Bastable was, I knew I needed to do a head chef job. I'd worked in great restaurants with some wonderful cooks at the helm, but they weren't my restaurants, and it kind of can stand for nothing really. So that's why I went to Bastable, and I really wanted to be reconnected with Ireland and do something and learn, and learn. I didn't know that much about the ingredients or the people, or who the makers, as I call them, these people who are creating some of the most wonderful crafts now in Ireland. I had no knowledge of these people, so I set about basically just contacting them and learning, and Bastable was a great medium for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, I remember I only went because, like I said, my brother Aaron told me I had to go. But when you start looking it up, like, it was the place, one of the restaurants to go to in Ireland that there was a huge buzz about because of the way you were treating it. And like you said, you were really. I remember even the one dish, like, one thing really stood out to me, that it was pickled bulbs of wild garlic flowers on top of a dish, and
Yeah.
it was. I remember being like that level, and it's like, wow, this is the stuff that people, someone goes out, picks these at the right time because it has to be a bulb, and then they're pickled, preserved, and worked into a dish, among with tons of other things in that dish, that every ingredient kind of blew your mind. That Ireland had that to give, food. And
Exactly. It's that point that's really important there. It's, that those ingredients are on your doorstep, and none of that stuff is my inventions. They're things I learned in Scandinavia, and I simply brought back there. While there's nothing more exciting about creating your own thing. I mean, that's what I strive for. But to be able to demonstrate to Irish people, but here, look what we actually have, and to really appreciate that. It's very, very special, and I'm delighted that you thought that the rams and capers were amazing, because they really are. They're stunning. You know, there's a dish in a restaurant in Copenhagen called in Relay, and it's sourdough bread. They make it up their own bread with lardo, so cured back fat, thick cuts of cured back fat, which is seasoned with thyme and rosemary and salt during the curing stage, laid out on this hot sourdough bread so it begins to melt. And then they simply just brush it with olive oil and some pickled rams and capers. And it's the best garlic bread you'll ever have. You know, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I was with a vegetarian friend, a bunch of people, but a friend who's a vegetarian one night in Relay, and she was chomping into her cheese sandwich, as she called it. You know, and
Oh,
I was looking at it in amusement. I really wasn't sure what was going on. I was like, has she, you know, is she no longer a vegetarian?
yeah, yeah.
It was like, this is the best cheese sandwich ever.
He wasn't a vegetarian for much longer after that, I'd say.
Right, but you know, the rams and capers are, uh,
Phenomenal.
yeah,
Just
once they're salted and pickled, they really are remarkable ingredients. Yeah.
yeah, and like that interacting with your food and interacting with other people, and going on courses in Ireland, and reading the books and researching what we have here. I live along the coast in Portmarnock, and I've got Malahide Castle, I've got Howth, and I've got Portmarnock Beach, and
Mm.
everything that surrounds there, and those kind of three different things. And Ticknock Woods up along just outside of Dublin, along the M50, and it's so close to the M50, people can't believe it. And when you bring
Yeah,
people up there,
absolutely.
when you
We have a real luxury, don't we? Um,
yeah.
Landscape and urban foraging. It's it's so accessible here in Dublin, and it's something that, you know, we, not that we ought to look to more, but just that we can is just fantastic. You know.
Yeah, it's definitely like you mentioned, there's a huge culture in Scandinavia, of this foraging, and knowledge being passed down, and going out and picking things, or making things, and it's not so much you need a whole dish of forage things, but you might have one thing that you can include, whether you're on a walk on a weekend and you see something. And like, I remember one time I was hiking up Ticknock, and where you park the car, I couldn't believe it, but and this is giving away, one of the spots of where good things are. But if you're ever up Ticknock, and where you park the car, you kind of drive up a bit on the right, there's a whole, maybe 100 meters of just elderberry, bushes and trees and everything that are just right in front of your car. And like one time we went up, and all the elderberries were out, and it was a really busy Saturday, and went up and started chopping off, or breaking off all these things, and I had a spare bag, and like broke off so many, and I was like, I'll make a cordial out of this, for flu season or whatever. And people were looking at me being like, what the hell is this person doing, breaking off all these branches and twigs and berries? No one came up and asked, what I actually was doing, but you could see it as they walked past, being like, who is this lunatic
Yeah.
breaking the berries? And it's often that one person, you know.
I have a friend, Keith Coleman. He's a chef based in Westmeath. He said to me when I came back to Ireland, he said, if you're out foraging and anyone ever stops you when you're doing it, which they will, people are always very curious about what you're doing. You know,
Yeah.
um, just tell them you're making beer. And it's like, as soon as you tell them you're making beer, they're like, oh yeah, Grant, and they'll walk away. You know, there's no issues with beer production here.
Yeah.
Have as much as you want seems to be the way it goes. You know.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that, like, I even want to really highlight to people through this podcast and through Go Gather Wild is, there's stuff outside in your doorstep, and this forgotten knowledge that we don't know we have here. You know.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, you talk about that. The Irish people, you know, in Scandinavia, that it's so prominent there, and foraging and preservation and fermentation, all that type of stuff, because they relied on it, of course, due to the climate. You know, with the harsh winters, they had to preserve. In Ireland, when you talk foraging and you actually think about did we forage when we were younger, the ingredient that we all picked was the blackberry.
Yeah.
The common blackberry. It's something that, we went out with our mothers to, pick to make a crumble. And I don't think people think that that's foraging, but it is. That's in Ireland where our foraging starts. And I'm delighted that it's already progressed. But there's an artist called Peter Broderick, and he writes about he's a musician, and he lives in Spittle in Connemara. But he talks about this, that, and he actually named his album The Blackberry based on that, and it was always about foraging, and I love foraging. And he was like, I hate the blackberry, and it's so common. But then he realized, hang on, actually, this is where it all began.
Yeah. And there almost is that like renaissance now coming through. And I don't know if it's just because we're in it, we're kind of seeing it, but you kind of do see it more and more bubbling up to the surface of society here, that people are becoming interested in cool things, where things are coming from, is like the
Yeah.
provenance of stuff is becoming more stuff. Whether it's beer, you can always pass it saying, or gin's the big thing here now. We're always amazing for local alcohol, but local food or makers, as you call them, are great. And that kind of leads us into nicely, Ómós, and that what you've come from a seed of a thought and a vision to something brilliant now that's actually happening. And I'd love to really go in depth about this and what you're doing, where it came from and where it's going. So I'd love to. I've signed up for your newsletter. I recommend everyone to sign up for it. It is a treasure trove. It's absolutely incredible. And it's like, if you enjoy a conversation or you'd want to have someone out for a pint, that's all it is. So it's really worth it. And you should absolutely, anyone listening should definitely go sign up for it, because it's an incredible wealth of knowledge and something that is just a delight and a treasure trove, like I said, when it comes into your mailbox. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Ómós. Go for it.
Almost, it's something that I guess it's what I've been trying to do forever. It's create this vision that felt very pure to me, and encapsulated all the things that are important to me. And as I kind of get older, and I see that it's really community that I feel very, very passionate about, and speaking to people, who I have deep, connections with, and in ways, these conversations that I have with makers, with people who create, they're potters or they're weavers or spoon makers, they feel so deep that I felt really quite compelled to write about it. And that kind of evolved to a stage where now Ómós is a storytelling, community, an environment where people can access all the information that I've kind of collected over the years, and whether that's recipes, whether that's food stories, or insights into foraging or all that kind of stuff. It's also the bowls or the pots or the spoons that I've made with makers, and that kind of stuff is available for people to actually get a hold of. And it's really important for me that we share what we know, and I wanted to create the platform that did that. And Ómós is that. It's basically just telling the story of what I'm doing. And when I drive out to a farm, or I'm planting seeds, or I find something in the wildlife, that I write about it and I share about it, and I also tell people how they can avail of it, or make something new with it. And the idea is basically that we grow together, and that much more will come of it. And that's basically the journey we're on, and it's evolving every day, and new ideas are coming in. And I'm lucky that a lot of people are really, really interested in it, and find it, inspiring, and that's really for me a bonus, because it's something that I guess I've believed in for a long time, that this was possible, that we could grow together, and that that sort of mentality of keeping our secrets close to our chests is basically, that we get rid of that idea, and that if we share, and if we're so daring to share, then we'll only grow. And that's to me what Ómós is. It means homage, duty, and respect in Irish, and it's being so respectful of our surroundings and the people around us, that we want to share everything about it. So yeah, that is Ómós.
Yeah, that kind of, it's amazing, the ethos of it. It's that whole rising tide lifts all boats, everyone's in it together. And these are the people that are doing it. And you're certainly, like I've found from, watching your content and reading the digest, is you become aware of really interesting people. I think just before we started recording this, you had an actual package while we were on, just chatting and things, coming from a maker, and it was ceramics and things like that. And it shows, and even the cup you're using now, I don't know if that's something, but it's beautiful, this type of stuff. And to have that real connection, like you said, community, you can say, this person is doing this work, and you're celebrating them almost, you're giving.
Yeah, well, sometimes these makers are really hard to actually access. Some people don't have websites, and some farmers are just not involved with social media, and they're so special. These people are so special, and I feel very privileged to have a connection with them, and I only want for others to be able to have that too. And touching back on that kind of keeping things close to our chests, it's so important that we share the knowledge we know. It really is. And sometimes everything tells you that no, this is mine. I developed this cup with this ceramist. I don't want other people to have it. I want to be the first person to release this. And who cares? Like it's not that important. And when I made a bowl with a potter in Kerry a couple of months ago, he said, and he asked, would you be willing to kind of allow other people to have it, or is this something that I know we created together? And although maybe originally you're kind of thinking, no, this is we did this is quite there's something about this product that connects you and I don't really want other people to use it. Immediately, because you have that mindset of sharing, you're forced to give it away, and that's something that's quite special to me. It's let's give everything away, and then let's just create more, and that's the only way we can grow together.
It's an amazing mindset, because it is, I don't know whether it's an Irish thing or just a universal thing, that we do like to keep ourselves to ourselves and hide a few things. When someone does come up and share and everything, like, and puts themselves out there as well, there is this, I think it's an inherent Irish shame, not a shame, I think, or something like that. You almost feel like you're doing something wrong, get back in your box type thing. What do you think? Who do you think you are type stuff?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, just a cultural thing here. But that's amazing, and I think so. Curry, that's kind of where Ómós has come from. But what can people do now, and what is it that is being offered? I know when the website wasn't even live, and it was just you were working on it and getting it ready to launch. We were talking about it, and you were saying you were going to do a dinner, and a dinner series. Obviously, with COVID, that has kind of maybe put that on a bit of a stop right now, or a bit of a pause. But I'd love to hear about those dinner ideas, if they're still there and still happening. And then after that, even about the farm. You just bought a farm. I mean, it's huge, So let's talk about the dinners, if you can,
so
and what they're about.
we I mean, cooking is what I absolutely love,
Yeah.
and it's kind of where it all started in cooking. And while almost for me in a restaurant, um, there will be a restaurant in the future for sure with Ómós. It's not. It's only a small part of what Ómós is, and that's something that's incredible for me. That Ómós can be so much more than a bricks and mortar. It's an entire idea, and an idea that is extremely inclusive, and that follows a community of like-minded people. So I will definitely be cooking very soon, hopefully. Anyway, we'll be cooking when we can, but what we want to do is create dinners, or a restaurant, an environment where we can celebrate all these makers together, and that we have that connection with them, and that the diners can experience that. So with that, we want to create food that is very connected as well, and that means really understanding where our food is coming from, and that's something that is extremely important to me. I really support regenerative organic farming and agriculture, and making sure that we know exactly the source of our ingredients. So I spend a lot of time kind of contacting farms and trying to not only source produce, but actually trying to grow new ingredients and ingredients that maybe I've seen abroad and want to bring here, and on a trial basis as well. But really establish a connection with these farmers to get something amazing out of it. And that goes with animals as well. While a lot of my cooking in the past has kind of been based on what comes from the sea and from the soil, when I talk about meat, I guess I'm talking about rare breed proteins and animals that have lived, a happy life. Sustainability there is really important to me, and animal welfare is, I can't eat meat that's not, we wouldn't eat too much meat at home, based on that fact. But the sourcing of the product is just paramount to me, and that's why we basically looked at a farm, and we basically got a farm last week.
And what's your plan for the farm? Is it to grow? What size is it? Do you have a vision?
It's a 3-acre plot of land,
Yeah.
which is plenty big for us, based in Wicklow. And I met this guy called Niall Whelan through Instagram, pretty much. So he followed me, and I was just having a look at what he was doing. And a couple of weeks later, I just messaged him because he had a couple of interesting points there on organic farming and things like that. He wasn't giving away much, but I just thought I'd shoot him a message. And it turns out he wanted to message me as well, but he wasn't sure which way to do it. So we ended up talking, and my girlfriend calls him my boyfriend now. So we're on the phone like 24/7 talking about all these plans, and basically doing up Excel documents of, shared documents of all the products we wanted to grow. And basically we're going to be working with him on a plot of land that he has. So he has 178 acres in Wicklow, which is a huge farm. But we're working on this farm together, to basically trial and test ingredients, and create a beautiful place in which we can source products for, hopefully, whether it's dinners or whether it's in a restaurant in the coming years. We'll see, but essentially a farm for Ómós, which is amazing. And it's phenomenal to have people like him, and Ómós. Without Ómós, there's no way of actually connecting with these sources. So I'm really looking forward to actually writing about him soon. I'm working on a newsletter about him, and he is a really incredible person. So, and very unknown, and people really need to know about this guy and these type of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's It's funny you mentioned the whole Instagram thing as well. You know, people are out there, and you mentioned this community, and it's just reaching out to each other. You know, I think
Yeah.
this is how like this conversation started. Again, like that. You know, you put out you needed a slow cooker. I had one, or a pressure cooker, I think, whatever it was. I had one. I was actually in Kerry in a B&B in Ballinskelligs. My partner Natalie was doing a residency there, and I was like, oh, cool, you know, that guy, chef, he's after putting up this thing. I'll send him a message. I'm not using mine. And then when I got back from Kerry, dropped it up to you. And that's how this started, you know, again, through a message on Instagram. So
Yeah.
it's funny how, you know, as I don't know, reluctant sometimes you feel about using these platforms and the social media side of things and everything that goes with that. There's actually, you know, this amazing community that can be fostered on it, and the knowledge that can be shared, and the togetherness that can grow from it when it's used correctly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's using it correctly that you can really benefit from it, and it has that ability to connect people in a way that's far richer than just just viewing images. And although it doesn't have that that real storytelling purity, I think it lacks that, and that's why I wanted to write the newsletter, to really give people the information that I could give.
Yeah.
It's been, without say Instagram, I wouldn't have met half as many farmers as or makers as I have today. So yeah, no, it's been really wonderful.
And on that, then there's been a few, you know, I think the future of food, or you know, even like going forward with Omos, you know, it's very much at the moment online, you know, and but what can people expect, you know, coming forward? Is there any like teasers that's in the works? That's you know, in the next couple of weeks people might see.
Yeah, I'm working on a couple of on my online shop. So yeah, the online store is going to go live as soon as I can. I'm working on a product, consumable product, let's call it. It's
Oh wow, okay.
yeah, so that's in the making, and I'm not quite sure when it'll be launched, but I would definitely keep my eyes on it. And then with a couple of products as well that I use every day, and I want that kind of stuff to be available. And whether that's ceramics or whether that's actual utensils,
Yeah.
I'm going about sourcing the things that I feel others will really appreciate. So yeah, the online store. Of course, I'm working on the newsletter every week, so I do a weekly newsletter there, and that's been brilliant. It's an absolute lifesaver, to be honest, and a really lovely creative outlet for me. And it's so great that people are actually enjoying it. That's all I can really ask for. But yeah, there's a number of projects. I love working on projects all the time and various things, and looking forward to being able to cook when we can, but who knows when that'll be. So at the moment, yeah, it's just taking it kind of month by month, and basically growing the community kind of organically. That's the best way we can really do it right now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely. I'm extremely interested to find out what those products will be in the future. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled. I just thought we'd kind of wrap up here, and conscious of your time, just talking about, you know, maybe the future of where you see it. I know you've been involved, like I touched on the Cosmic Taco Box earlier on, but you know, where do you see that? I think there's not a trendy or the most popular pop-ups or unique experiences in Dublin doesn't have your name on it, you know, or something you've been involved in, whether it's that or one or two others that I've seen. And I don't know if you're involved in that. There's one you put up where they might be friends of yours. That's like a white rabbit. Is that it? That drink or whatever it is? I don't know. So
No.
there's a few things happening online that becomes more isolated incidents or you know just experiences in themselves. You know, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've no connection. Well, I've no involvement in Ralph's, the
That's
beverage.
it. Yeah.
He's a friend of mine, Jordan Ralph, who makes that, and that's the only connection I have. He's just a really lovely guy who basically over the years has been making this drink at parties, and people have just told him, like, you need to do something with this. And I think they added an extra shot of something, and that was the only difference. But essentially, just his, the drink he's been making in a gaff. But yeah, he's a great guy, and it's about connecting with people in those circles, which is really interesting, and supporting them. But yeah, I guess with collaborations, it's really lovely to collaborate, and it's something that I remember in Copenhagen is every week there was another collaboration within or with a new community, and there was always somewhere to go, and it felt like there was a connectivity amongst restaurants,
right?
And also amongst creative people, whether it's music or forms of art, and I loved that, and I was really dying for that, and I didn't feel it was there that much amongst the culinary community here in Ireland when I came back. So that's kind of why we started reaching out to people like Scale or Assassination Custard, and the taco box was just a bit of fun. I think I just wanted to try a box, but in all honesty, for me, I didn't love the whole just so much packaging. It's just
you're very right.
Necessary for me to do that, while I fully understand restaurants need to survive, and in that way it's been an amazing lifeline for them. I just don't need to create that waste because I'm not working in a restaurant anymore. So
yeah, true.
But yeah, it was lovely to give people that experience of when I lived in Mexico as well, and that people could then cook that food at home, and yeah, it was a bit of crack.
Certainly made a bit of a buzz. Well, look, I think that's it. We've covered so much there. I'm really appreciative of your time. We might do this again in a couple of months and check back in about how things are going. I know people can find you personally at Cúán Greene on Twitter, at Cúán Greene on Instagram, and then Ómós, is at Ómós, OMOS.Dublin on Instagram, Ómós.co, so OMOS.co is the website. And is there anywhere else you want to point people to or say?
No, that's it really. You'll I think to really get in depth with what I'm doing, it's to visit the newsletter, and you'll find that through my bios. But also, if you just want to get in touch with me, feel free to send me an email, or just a DM through Instagram. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Amazing. Right. Well, look, I think we can stop it there, and brilliant. Thanks a million for your time.
Good. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Visit gogatherwild.com to see notes on what we discussed today, and connect with us on social media at gogatherwild. Thanks for listening. Happy foraging.